Hi guys, welcome to episode 7 of the Side Hustlers Handbook. I'm Emiley and I'm your go-to girl for everything marketing and business related to help you hustle smarter, not harder. So if you've been in business for a little while, you will remember a time before social media. Yep, a simpler time. So in those days, advertising was really clear. You could buy a print ad, buy a send a letterbox drop, or do a radio commercial. It was really clear cut and you knew exactly what to expect. But now with social media, it means you've got a whole new set of rules and set of ways to communicate with your audience, which is actually pretty cool. So they're saying it's the age of content. I reckon it's the age of connection because social media networks allow you to actually connect with your audience. So rather than just talking at them, which is the time of the traditional media, you're able to talk to them and get a conversation going, a dialogue, ask them questions, find out what they like, what they don't like, get real-time feedback on where they're at, whether that's in a like, a comment, or clicking through to your website. You know exactly when they are engaging and understanding what you're saying, and you can tweak accordingly. Plus it's free, unless you're paying for ads and stuff, which I think should be part of your strategy. All your stuff on your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed is free. So why not create a really clear and concise message and just make sure you're targeting the right networks that you need to get your message across based on where your target market is currently playing. So while this can seem all very confusing, I completely understand. I get confused and frustrated and everything's changing all the time, and one minute you do something and it works really well, next minute you do the same thing and it completely flops. Why? Who knows? There's so many different variables now that it's hard to reiterate the same thing over and over again. But in saying that, there's so much opportunity to try and test things. So take a deep breath, sit back, and I'm going to take you through the top 7 social networks so you can get an understanding of what they're all about, what their purpose is, and how you could be actually involving them in your business. While I'm saying I'm talking about the top 7, I'm not suggesting that you be on all 7, but really pick 2 to focus on and nail them first, and then grow and evolve. So once you've nailed either Facebook and Instagram or Facebook and YouTube, then you can evolve and grow from there. So this is one of my favorite infographics on the web at the moment. It's been around for a while and gets updated regularly. This one was updated in August 2017, and I'll provide a link to it in the description below. Thanks, Leverage New Age Media, for producing this one. It's a goodie. And it really explains just quickly what the top 6 social media platforms are and what they're all about. There's one I'm going to be adding to this episode, which doesn't feature here, so stay tuned. But just as an overview, Pinterest, all about discovery, about images. It's beautiful. It's a great one for grabbing inspiration. There's 150 million people using it, so massive amount of people. Twitter is a microblogging platform. It actually allows you to post for 280 characters now, an update that was just released at the end of 2017, which is great. There's loads of people on it, 328 million, which is huge, and it's a really quick way to have a conversation and get your message out there. Facebook is all about being on mobile, so it's got a really strong active user base that comes back every single day. So that's 2 billion people that come back every month, but daily there's 1.5 billion, which is insane, insane. And it's a pretty general sort of age group. I'm pretty sure almost every age group is on Facebook. It's not really targeted. Instagram, it's all about pictures. The more beautiful and inspiring your photos are, the more likes, comments you're going to get. How you find other photos is through hashtags, and it's a great way to engage with other with customers that are using your types of products or are talking about your industry. 700 million users on there. And then Snapchat. Personally, I haven't used Snapchat for business purposes, but it is becoming a popular platform, especially if your audience are these guys. If they're the youngins that you're targeting, those young adults, Snapchat's going to be the one for you, especially if you have really awesome behind the scenes stuff you can talk about, or any instant offers you'd like to offer your audience. And LinkedIn, often the forgotten social media network because it's very business focused. A lot of people I know don't go onto LinkedIn because they, don't want to, they're not looking for a job. But there are a lot of people out there on LinkedIn searching for articles about anything that's sort of productivity based or about business development or personal development or anything like that. It's still a great platform, especially if you can target your messaging around that sort of business focus. It's got very, very low, it's very uncluttered compared to the likes of Facebook. So if you have an article that's really great and gets lots of likes, it's going to go way more viral. So let's break it down and work out how you can be using these social networks to target your customers. So let's start with the big one, Facebook. So it's a behemoth. As we saw in that infographic, there's 2 billion people using it already. And I'm making an assumption here, but I think you might have set up a Facebook page already. Am I right? Now, you've done the right thing because it is where everybody's playing at the moment, but there's ways to communicate on Facebook that are different to what you might be doing currently. So with Facebook, as you may have noticed, that it's really hard to get reach to all of your followers. Back in 2010, 2011, it was actually really easy to create a social network of people, so followers that were commenting, engaging, really engage with what you were saying. But now it's so much harder to do that for free because Facebook at the end of the day wants to make money off advertising and also ensure that the messaging that's appearing on people's news feeds is as relevant as it can be, because the more relevant it is, the more likely their users are going to be coming back and also staying on there longer. So you may have heard of the word algorithm. So it's just a fancy way of saying there's some technology at Facebook that works out what content they should be putting on people's news feeds. So how it's determined, nobody knows the exact formula, but it's basically based on how many likes, comments, shares, clicks, views, and that sort of thing within a certain time period. So the quicker you can get, a certain amount of likes, the more likely it's going to be seen by more people, more of your followers. So for example, if you've posted something like a comment or a photo that's achieved no likes, it's likely that your reach is going to be virtually nothing. Whereas like a cute quote that may have sparked some sort of topical interest or it's really funny or really clever, that might get more likes and comments on it, which means it's going to go out to a greater group of your followers. It's pretty obvious that on Facebook, you need to create engaging, interesting, entertaining content because that's the stuff that's going to give you engagement. So stop selling. Stop saying, hey, buy this. Hey, I've got this sale. Hey, if you buy these 2 things, you get this free. Like, you need to actually be talking about things that are happening in your industry or cool things that are happening with your brand or behind the scenes stuff or, like inspirational quotes or sharing content from other Facebook pages, because that's what's creating a story and is going to actually engage your users. So just remember, you need to be entertaining, be inspiring, be educational, but most importantly, you want your audience to like you. So just remember, you work for your audience, not the other way around. So Instagram. Personally, I find Instagram way more entertaining, especially since the introduction of stories, because I find myself just flicking through story after story while I'm waiting in line for a coffee or for the train, or basically waiting for anything in general. Yeah, it's something I'm working on. I need to be more present. But in saying that, it's captured me, and I am a consumer as well. So I find it a great platform to really engage people. Instagram is a very visual platform, and it's also becoming almost a micro-blogging platform of its own as well. Some of the people I follow will post a great image, but then post a little story or something about their day, or something that reflects back to that story, rather than just saying, hey, I had a nice coffee today. Cool. Like actually talking about, okay, I was having this coffee and this happened to me, or today I've been thinking about whatever it is, but bringing a little bit of insight into your brand's personality, and potentially even your personality as a business owner, and adding that to those Instagram posts, not just making it a pretty picture with a hashtag or emoji or whatever. So while some brands are completely killing it on Instagram, I've found that most of these brands are selling something that's a little bit gimmicky, really trendy, really visual, potentially involves some like hot models. They're sort of the products that I find are selling really well. And while great, awesome for them, not every industry is like that, and you may not see the same sort of return on investment on Instagram as other brands would, which may mean you don't invest as heavily in Instagram as they would. So if you choose to use Instagram as one of your main social platforms, I recommend following these tips. So make sure your content is really consistent. And what that means is that all your images look like they're part of the same story. So that may mean that you want to add the same filter to everything, or you have a color scheme in mind, or make sure everything sort of is really cohesive. So even if you're borrowing images from other sources, which is totally fine so long as you credit them in your description, just make sure they sort of fit with that same sort of look. So it may be the type of photo, or the colors in the photo, or any of those sorts of things. Pinterest is a really awesome way to find images that look like other images. When you click on the image and you scroll down, it shows you a whole lot of images that are very similar. So that's a great resource. So choose your subject matter. So while that might seem really obvious because you've got a brand, you've got a business, be really clear on what types of posts you're going to put on there. If you're a really healthy, focused brand, you're not going to post something about alcohol or really fatty food because it's not really relevant. But if you're talking about, you've got a fitness brand or you're a PT, keep your posts around healthy lifestyle, and whether that's actual exercises or people doing exercises or food or, great locations to exercise or whatever it is, but keep that really consistent. Another idea is to create a branded hashtag. So branded hashtags are great because people can then use them on their own accounts when they engage with your product or service. So this works really well for services or like cafes or locations where people go and take photos themselves, or even if they would take photos of using your product or anything like that. Creating a branded hashtag is a great way to create that sort of sense of community. And if anyone's looking at it, they can then see all your images, but also see any images your users have posted as well, which is a great way to basically generate some social proof for your product. So don't forget captions. Don't make them like your last minute thing where you just write something random. Tell a story. Like I said before, that microblogging is becoming really popular. So if you can either talk about something that's happening behind the scenes, or introducing something new, or sharing some sort of piece of advice, great, it's awesome. Also collaborating with other Instagrammers is a really good way to generate a greater audience. It's also a great way to create new content and also show that affiliation with a brand that's like-minded to you. And lastly, Instagram stories are a great way to show behind the scenes stuff. So whether that means you're creating something yourself and you're showing how that's all happening behind the scenes, or whether it's, you know, you're working on something new and you take a photo of yourself at a cafe or a coffee and your laptop or whatever it is, but create that sort of story about you as a business owner, but also as the brand itself. So Twitter, it's something that I find Australians haven't utilized really well, but in the US, it's massive. And depending on your audience, Twitter might be a really great way to get cut through from other social networks like Facebook. So with Twitter, it's a really short and sharp way to communicate your message. Like I said before, they've recently increased the number of characters you can use in one post, which is awesome. Also, make sure you post your photos or videos natively. So what that means is actually get into Twitter and post them. Don't just click the share to Twitter button in your Instagram account, because what happens is it posts a link to your Instagram image. So it doesn't actually post your image in Twitter. So the problem with this is that people have to then click on your link to see the image. So it means that you've lost all that power over an image, which provides that cut through as people are, you know, scrolling through a feed. So post natively. I highly recommend that if you are going to use Twitter. I have also found that Twitter works really well at getting click-throughs to, you know, a blog post or something like that, especially around really educational topics. So try to find hashtags that relate to your educational topics, whether it's around, you know, fitness trends, healthy eating, those sorts of things, because people are really searching those. Also, check out what's top trending, because you might be able to create some content around one of the trending sort of stories. So especially if there's something topical happening at the moment, or like you could create an image, or you could link back to an article that you've already written, or talk about your product in a different way, especially if there's something that's already engaging people internationally. Obviously, don't hijack the news and don't try and leverage things off tragedies or anything like that. But, you know, for example, hashtag National Burger Day. If you make healthy burgers, take a photo of it and post about it, or share your blog post about how to make a healthy burger. You know, things like that, because that's going to get you really great traction in an audience that's potentially never heard of you before. So while I personally have never used Snapchat for business related purposes, it's a great way to build a community. Notice I say community rather than get more customers, because that's what Snapchat is about creating that story. So make sure you're not just repurposing stuff from your Instagram to your Snapchat. It needs to be unique. One thing you can do, which I've seen a few brands do before, especially news type brands, is to use your Snapchat story as a article, or to complement an article on your website. So you might have gone to a really cool event and you've done a whole lot of Snapchats throughout the whole day. Make them into a story, download them, and then add them into your article, and then write about whatever you need to write about, and then people can watch that video as well. But you can also share that video then on Facebook as well. So while Snapchat still needs to be a unique platform for content, you can leverage it onto other platforms. It's also a great way to offer flash sales just for your Snapchat community. So you might say, hey, here's an offer code that's only valid for the next hour. Get on my site, buy stuff. Or really ridiculous discounts, or, you know, something like that. So it's really incentivizing people to use Snapchat as a platform to follow you. So Pinterest is considered a social network, but really it is a search engine. So basically it's a way for people to search images using keywords. So it's really, really super visual. So anything around DIY or recipes or workouts is amazing. So potentially you are a recipe blogger and you want to post recipes on there, create like a little tile with, you know, my 10 recipes for using avocado, whatever. I love avocado, so I would probably click on that and probably pin it to my, food to make board or whatever. So yeah, you could do that. PTs could create little workouts. An interior designer might have a blast creating like a before and after. There's so many options you can take, and once you get on the platform, you'll really understand what works and what doesn't work. But be aware, it's super competitive, so there's so many images on there, so to get cut through, you really need to be doing something a little bit different. And make sure it is linking back to a relevant page on your site, because that way they will be more likely to follow you on other social media, or sign up to your email database or something like that. So LinkedIn is more than just a platform for B2B, so business to business. If you have a business product, I would definitely recommend going on LinkedIn. It's awesome from the perspective that it's so much easier to get reach than something like Facebook. But even if you're a B2C product, so you are a business to customer product where you sell some sort of consumer good, you can still target your messaging around LinkedIn. So whether that's sending out messages through your own personal LinkedIn profile, if you've got a great network, or you might create one specifically for your brand. So things to take note of though is LinkedIn is definitely a different way of speaking. They use different language. It's way more professional, way more grammatically right. You wouldn't use some of the slang you would on social media, like on Instagram or Facebook, as you would on LinkedIn. So, hashtag blessed, yes, those sorts of words you probably wouldn't use on LinkedIn. It's also important to think about when people will be using LinkedIn. I found during business hours is probably the best time, because it's one of those networks you can still have up on your screen when you're at work in a corporate gig, and it's not considered social like Facebook. So I wouldn't be posting on a Sunday night, even though that's where you get the most amount of traffic from your Facebook page. I would maybe stick to Monday to Friday 9 to 5 type hours. And I said I was going to give you 7 of the top networks. Well, one that I wanted to add to the list is YouTube. So you guys are watching this on YouTube. It is a social network. While it is also a way to find information like a search engine, it is a great way to build a relationship with your potential customers. So you get to see me talk to you, which is something very different to Instagram or Facebook. Plus, when you've got subscribers, they all receive an update as to when your videos go live, which is amazing. Amazing cut through there. And it doesn't have to be movie quality. I mean, look at this video. Literally, this is my camera on a little tripod, perched on my desk, and me sitting in a chair in my apartment. That's it. Like, it's pretty easy. So you don't have to hire someone to do this. You can do it yourself. Video editing, it's not that hard. YouTube it. It's all on there. So it's also a really great way to create something that builds a personality, or even something that can go viral. So if you've never heard of Blendtec before, I'm going to provide the link below to their YouTube channel. Basically, they're a blender, right? Yeah, sure, cool. You would assume their YouTube channel is about smoothie recipes or something like that. But no, they have a YouTube channel that is dedicated to Will It Blend. So what this means is they blend the most random stuff in a blender based on what their subscribers are wanting them to blend. So they blend mobile phones, whole chickens, like lots of different stuff, because it's creating that sort of will it blend. Plus it's also showcasing their product as a really strong, durable machine, but super unique. So if you can come up with some sort of quirky idea like that, that will make people be intrigued to watch your video and subscribe because they want to know what you're up to next, then you're onto a winner. So while I've talked about the top 7, and like I said at the start, pick 2 to focus on. There's actually hundreds of social networks out there. Yep, hundreds. So while you're just thinking you're getting the grasp on this top 7, there are so many more. I've provided a link to the top 60 in my description below if you are wanting to have a little look. But yeah, there's so many other avenues you can look at, and depending on your audience, there may be an avenue that is really, really relevant to who you're trying to target. So if there's a social network you really would like me to delve more deeply into, I'm sure I will in future episodes, but if you'd like me to do it as more of a priority, please comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I'll be doing weekly updates, weekly episodes featuring a whole host of different marketing tips and hints and how-tos and all that sort of stuff. So please subscribe, and but have fun with social media. It's a great platform to build a relationship, have a conversation. Don't get too bogged down in whether your stuff is working or not. We can touch on that later, work out tips on how to make it better. But stop comparing yourself and just have fun with it and showcase your personality and who you are trying to target, basically. So remember, social media is about building a conversation, not about selling your stuff. That comes as a byproduct of building a relationship with the customer. So that's it for me for today. Next week's episode will be about finding your brand's voice, which is really important when you're creating content on social media. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, and I will see you then. Bye for now.